Hey everybody, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Molly67, and with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. How is everyone out in the Twitch world and you? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've just been working, back to the going into work every day grind, everything of that sort. Pretty solid. I'm not complaining. My job's changing a little bit. It's not changing too much. I'm doing the same thing. But the bank that I'm part of closed down facilities in 2 different areas and moved all their work to us. And this is I'm pretty positive, a cost saving like mechanism for them, as well as just putting everything in a single location. This is fine. Unfortunately, like, people are losing their jobs because of it. But that's corporations for you, is they will find a cheap alternative and then just like get rid of the rest. And so like now I'm doing jobs that originally, like, my job was split up into 4 different locations. Now they're all in just my location. And my other co-worker is still off on short term. I have no idea when or if she's coming back. I'm by myself. The manager and the supervisor both have the rest of the year off. It's the reason why I couldn't take the rest of my vacation days. And so I've just been doing like my job. Also, all the time that I wasn't there, the other person who should have been doing the stuff didn't do any of it. And I've been catching up on 2 months worth of work that they should have done, but whatever. I mean, it is how it is. I'm putting in the work. I'm getting things finished, completed, and ready, and that's like basically where I'm at. So honestly, not terrible. I've been going to work, doing the job, sitting there watching Fantasy High on Dropout TV because there are new seasons coming out sometime next year. And I'm like, I've never watched them. The only thing of D20 or Dimension 20 I've ever seen is Chronopolis, which is like their one with Hank Green. Loved it a lot, and I was like, you know what? I should watch these guys because I like Brendan Lee Mulligan. He's the DM of it. So been doing that at work, just sitting there watching that and playing games on my phone until work comes in, and then I do work. So
yeah, not too bad.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible whatsoever. It's actually kind of good. Austin, how are you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty interesting. You can kind of see that my camera is a little bit close to this back wall now. Yeah, it's pretty close. So my desk is in the middle of the room right now. The reason why that is, my wife has decided to paint this room. So this was all covered in plastic and my mic's like really close because now my mic's not on like the wall shivvy. It's like on my desk now. But she's painting the room, and then we just need a new coat of paint because we're just trying to like liven up this room a little bit more. And Christmas happened. We did Christmas, and that was a lot of fun. I got some pretty cool gifts, and I got like some new pans, and my wife bought me this new watch. I love it. And then pretty much a whole bunch of other stuff. She bought me all the nerdy stuff that I like. She was like, hey, here's magic cards, here's Lorcana, and I was like, yeah, cool, thanks.
There's nothing, this is no offense to you, Austin, there is nothing more hipster / old than a watch.
Yeah, it is. It's cool though. I like a watch.
I mean, it's because you're a Gen Xer, Austin. You see that stuff and you think nostalgically, or you think about it's one of those things that whenever I see people with watches, I'm like, there's 2 things. It's either one, you grew up with characters who used watch and whatnot, and there's a bit of nostalgia in it for you, or 2, you are trying to reduce your amount of use of or reliability on your phone. And I don't know which one you are, Austin. It's just funny to me because I only see hipsters or old people with watches nowadays. Because everyone has phone on theirs.
Yeah, well, and also smartphone. I mean, smartwatches. People have smartwatches.
Yeah, but that's much more functional than a single watch, right?
It is.
The idea of a smart watch is that it's basically your phone.
Yeah.
In your on your watch, so it's not rude of you just scrolling through everything.
I just like that feel of a watch, so I like it. So I don't have to pull my phone out and look. But most of the time I'm looking at my phone, so I know what time it is. But if I got it in my hand, I'm just like, yeah, watch, cool. But I also, I've been a fan of watches for a long time.
There it is.
It is what it is. I'm old.
Here's the thing, Austin. Watches are in the same league as phones, right?
Yeah.
If you tell a young kid, 10 or whatever like that, pretend you're on the phone, they'll go like this. When we're little, Austin, if I told you, pretend you're on the phone, what icon you do? You do that, the old-fashioned receiver. It's the same thing with can you tell me what time it is? Older people will be like, well, let's see. Younger people will be like, it's this amount. It's the same thing. It's it's outdated to the current gen.
Oh yeah, that's
you know what's also funny? There's a guy on YouTube and TikTok who's become popular. His name's Pirate Software. He's a Blizzard. He's an ex Blizzard employee who did hacking and all that stuff. Not hacking to hack into stuff, but for security stuff.
Yeah.
And he's making his own game and everything. He's becoming popular just talking about either game industry, hacker stuff, or everything of that sort. And he was explaining how they were testing a game. And they're our first day at the convention, they had keyboard and mouse on one screen and a controller on the other. And he's we took it there and we noticed a strong 50% of the players never touched the keyboard and mouse because they didn't know how to use it. So the next day they just put two controllers, and you know what happened? The next day, not even half of the people touched the controller. What they actually did was they saw the controller, moved the controller, and then proceeded to touch the screen because they're used to touch screens nowadays. And he's that's how the world's going. It's not the fact that kids are illiterate. They're not functional with like controllers or keyboard and mouse. It's just that's everything works that way. And it's the same thing with like phones and watches and everything. But it's like that's just a classic thing. Whenever I talk with people and they say they prefer a controller over like a mouse and keyboard or X or Y, I'm like, yeah, sooner or later everything's going to be functioned into something else, and it's just how technology works, man.
Yeah, no, that's how that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's crazy, man.
Yeah, but no, I had Christmas going on, a lot of stuff like that. Pretty much like nothing really too much going on. Really nothing, just working. I start school here in like a week, so I'm starting to get back into that and everything else that's going on in my life, health wise, still same thing, stuff like that. So like, yeah, it's just been one of those weeks. And what's really cool is like now I'm gonna have Tuesdays to hang out with the people on, I can play games now online because the guy that we usually do game nights on Tuesdays, he actually switched to weekend shift now. So he's off on the weekend, so he wants to do game night on weekends now. Nice. I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that a lot better because more people can show up. On a weekday, some people are like, I don't know if I can do that. So, it was nice. It's nice to see that,
It's basketball, baby.
Yeah, it's baseball, baby. But yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on, except for, thinking about Oklahoma. But,
not everything's okay in Oklahoma.
Nope, not everything's okay.
It's funny. Like I didn't do anything for Christmas. I stayed home and played Baldur's Gate all weekend. They did the update where you can now get Minthara in your team through a normal play, and I restarted to do it, and I got her. And Gosh, see, she's actually kind of hilarious, I'll be honest, with a lot of her stuff. She's like super strict and like mean almost, but she's like I would equate her to like Red from That 70s Show, like the dad or the grandpa or whatnot. Okay. Like just says really like dark and mean stuff, but like doesn't understand. Like there's this one thing where you talk to the person and you hear that kids are stealing like stuff, like they're pickpocketing, and she's like, if I ever catch a thief, the next time I catch one of those kids stealing from me, they're going to lose a hand. And you say like, geez, lose a hand, why don't you just kill them? And then she's like, of course not, they wouldn't learn their lessons then. If you kill them, they die. You do it, you cut off their hands, they learn. I'm just, what the heck? And then like whenever the clown, you can get her to like go on top of the stage with the clown, and you could be like, hey Minthara, tell her the joke about the dryer and the at the wedding. Dryer is like a spider human that you see in the Underdark, and she's like, it was a web. It was I can't even remember it, but it's like it was a like glorious affair or whatever, but it's like a web pun, and I'm just like, what the heck? Why is she so like? She's like weirdly endearing, but it's to the point where it's just kind of like, you're problematic, girl, but you funny. Oh. And it's kind of how I felt about this season of Only Deaths in This Building, Austin. Great, funny, problematic at sometimes, but pretty good. Austin,
yeah.
What'd you think of Only Murders in This Building, season 2?
You know, it's kind of hard to top something like this most of the time. Like, you know, to move on and like keep the same energy that needs to go from season 1 to season 2. And it's hard, especially with a comedy like that. You know, there's only comedies that I have watched that they can kind of do that. But they do lose their luster sooner or later. Like that, you know, that's just how that is. Like, you know, sad thing is I love Letterkenny. Letterkenny just came out today. Or no, was it today or yet? It was yesterday. Yesterday, the final season of Letterkenny is out. And, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, I wish it would have went on for like, you know, more seasons. I'm like, really, in reality, it's in the 12th season. You know, they went from, you know, I think it was like 15 episodes to only 6 episodes a season. Or no, it was 6 episodes a season each time, but it was like so easy to watch. You know, it was like half an hour, 6 episodes. Half an hour, 6 episodes. You know, and it went fast, but also got to a point is how far can you take this comedy that can be the same comedy that you love, and you know the things that they do. And that's how I feel with What We Do in the Shadows too, is I'm okay with the show ending as long as it ends properly, and they have an ending, because the thing is you don't want to overstay your welcome, and it's really hard for comedies to do that. And if comedies can do that and still be relevant, it's because most of the time the content that they have don't have like a storyline to it or anything like that. It's just like episodic. Like Always Sunny in Philadelphia is more episodic, you know, like episodes. You can just pick up an episode of Always Sunny and it's just random. You know, it's not like they have like an overarching storyline with it. They might have characters that, you know, arc from other episodes, but it's not like you have to know what happens last season because of this character is having this conflict. Like What We Do in the Shadows is with Guillermo, you know, turning into a vampire last season. That was a whole overarching thing. But this is, it's really hard to like, you know, capture that moment you had in season 1. But this is actually really well put together. I think that they do really well with it. I actually love this season. Actually, I'm going to say it, but I actually love this season more than season 1. Just because I do like the silliness has got bumped up a little bit, and I was okay, and I was there for it. And one of the characters.
Okay. So real quick, I just want completely agree with you. I think I like this season better than season 1. Yeah. The characters were a lot more put together, and I agree. There was a lot more funny parts in this season, but they weren't so how you want to call it, like character
obvious. It wasn't like complete blatant obvious about it. It was just it was just that funny moment where they know that like they're goofy, but they're not like stupid goofy. And like I'll say this, Howard is one of my favorite characters now on the show because Howard had me dying. I like died when I watched that episode, the revealed murder party.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end when Howard's like, "Oh yeah, well I only faded one time, and all the rest of the other times I was acting."
Mm-hmm.
I just laughed out loud. I was like, Howard,
Or when he
bravo.
started singing Joseph in the Technicolor, and they're just like,
Stop, dude. You know, and then you know, like that's the thing is like some of these characters I really enjoyed, and then like you know the plot that like they had some plot holes, you know, in season 1, and they kind of filled those with that. Like Lucy, we got to see who Lucy was, and like everything with that. I was really happy that they kind of did the whole they kind of did the whole thing. The storyline, which I really loved, is like bringing Bravos back for a reboot, but then like completely ruining the character by changing them. Be like, oh yeah, we gonna bring you back, but you're gonna have dementia, and it's like, oh man. But it was so funny watching Steve Martin. I don't know why, but when Steve Martin's like, I want soup, I just died. I was like, oh my gosh. See, I love his physical comedy. That's
you know
why.
what's funny, right? You say that. I didn't like laugh at that scene. I got like the comedy in it or whatnot, but I didn't laugh at it. The scene that I have that I like busted out laughing to actually involved Howard, and when he was on the date with the one guy, and he's like, I really always wanted to be like a child's library, and he's like, I'm a librarian. He's like, shut up. He's like, that was our motto. That's our slogan.
That's our slogan.
I just laughed at that because it was so like
how Howard is
passively, like generically said, and it was a well done deliverance, and there was a lot of well done delivery in this this show, and I really side note, I really like Steve Martin. I think Steve Martin plays his character very well.
Oh yeah. Totally.
I really like Selena Gomez's just honestly, she's a really good actress. Like she is she's like able to play like the complexity very nicely. The serious scenes, the less so serious scenes, how she kind of responds to the environment is very good. Yeah, no, I think she did phenomenal in this.
You know, and I'm okay with Selena, but the thing is I do feel like sometimes she's a little over, like some type of tone is weird with her sometimes when she speaks about certain lines, and that could probably be like just a problem that she's having now with everything that medical has wise. But like sometimes I feel like she's monotone when she talks sometimes, and I just don't like it. But I do understand, like she still, the best part about this show is you have 3 characters that are really well chemistry, and they're total opposites in a way, you know, except 2 of them are older and 1 of them is younger, but the 2 are totally different from each other. You know, and I was really happy when you know, I first watched the season 1 and now season 2 came out, and I was like, I'm glad that they're still sticking to like this, you know, like the funny moments of, you know, the difference between their age gaps. I love that. It's great. It plays well with each other. But also too is I think
like when Lucy like bet and he's just like, how much?
How much? No, like that's the thing. Like I think that this is, I love this season a lot more than season 1 because I think it was more in depth, and also too is I like the twist compared to season 1, because the problem I did have with season 1 was I kind of knew it was going to be this thing. Like I just knew it was like, you know, it was like this thing of like, oh, you know, it's just it's going to be her. It's going to be Jan the whole time. It's going to be Jan. This one actually had me puzzled like for a long time until like right when they started kind of revealing it. And I was like, oh, you know, because the thing is what they did really well this season was one, they fixed the problem I think that they had last season, where they would show you who the murderer was, and then them trying to catch up to it, like to reveal, like them.
They still kind of did that,
but it wasn't as bad though.
Well, it's after the first season, like the first season where it shows like who the murderer is. It was done in a way that you're like, oh, this is the murderer, right? And then the more like stuff goes on, you're like, okay, this isn't the murderer. This is a murderer for something else. And they did the same thing where they're like, oh, this Glier guy is the murderer. Oh, this is the Glier guy episode where he starts talking about himself. And then it's like, oh, he didn't commit to it, or we didn't see it. So this isn't the murderer, or is this the murderer? It's funny that you said like about the twist. I caught it roughly. I think it was episode 7 or 8. Whenever I like honed in on exactly who it was, because up till that point you're only given enough information to like guesstimate. But the only issue with like guesstimating characters in like a TV show is that you're given the information in a way to make you think it's one or one person or the other person. Like, I thought because of how much they were doing a backstory on Selena's dad, that Glier Man was going to be her dad. And then when she explained that her dad had like cancer, I was like, okay, it's not him. So the possible people like gets narrowed down, blah 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 blah. Well, the thing that made me narrow in on who the killer was, like on the episode, was whenever Poppy says like, hey, we should look into this like artist named blah blah blah. I'm like, that was the artist who came to was present in the thing. And that's when I'm like, okay, either the podcaster girl did it or it was the assistant. And the thing that made me think it was the assistant before her is that throughout season 1 and throughout this season, anytime she came up with a good idea, the other one took credit for it. And whenever I like thought about it for like a little bit of a second, I'm like, it was her, and she's doing it to try and like further her boss's career. And then the more like things got revealed, I'm like, oh, she's not trying to further her career. I mean, the boss's career. She's legitly trying to like become the next person, essentially. Yeah, and then like the whole story started coming out about stuff. I will say like there was a couple things that were revealed that I didn't realize, or I didn't understand their connection until later. But the twist in this series was a lot more well compacted.
Yes.
And that's what I think I liked so much about it.
Yeah, it wasn't, like it had like its moments of like, what I liked about it was the twist that did happen. They set up characters to make you try to veer off.
Yeah.
And like what they did was like Howard's love interest. You did that. Like the little scenes like, do you have a cat? And then like Lucy, the scene before was like, oh, this guy sneezed, and it's like, oh, well, what kind of sneeze was it? Like, was it a chew or was it a chew? He's like, what does that mean?
You know what honestly wrote him off for me?
Oh, I knew it wasn't him.
Well, yeah, but like the second that they did the sneeze, I'm like, that's supposed to try to harken you back to the person who sneezed. But my brain's like, he just got introduced. If he was the killer, it would be extremely unsatisfying. At least when it came to Jen last season, she was introduced roughly around the middle patch of the... Well, she was introduced early, but she didn't become a full character until the middle of the series.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he comes in, what? Episode 7 or 8, and it's like that would be like, highly unsatisfying.
It was the blackout episode, so
yeah, it was the blackout episode that he came in. I was the whole time I was waiting for like sneezing. I was looking around for the sneezing,
and it didn't happen until the last episode.
Yeah.
Well, the party reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still over here trying to like. There's a couple things that weren't like wrapped up in a efficient way for me personally.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But like, still, there's a lot of things that I liked in it. Like, one of the things I don't think was wrapped up very efficiently was the whole painting thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea of like them, like, was the intention of her to take this painting and like, was it just meant to frame him, or was she trying to like frame him to also draw attention to the artist that disappeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or were they actually looking for the painting itself? Because how the Weber guy, or whatever the dude's name, Krebs, the one detective, made it sound is that he wanted more money. Like, he wanted money. So I'm like, okay, maybe they were trying to take it. And
well, I think what it alluded to was like him framing Mabel so that he would get a promotion.
Oh yeah,
as
yeah.
like this big thing. So
that
like,
was very much the idea that, well, they said it very much. It was supposed to be that she got her podcast, he got his promotion, and they got to move on. But the very idea that she would target that woman because she refused to give her the painting, I'm like, did they then intend to take it? I don't know. It doesn't make much sense. Also, I do want to say, right? There was a exceedingly missed opportunity for the painting to be a better reveal, because they could have just had the painting hidden in the walkway spaces, and then that being like the killer used this walkway because here's the painting. And then it becomes like oh no, we almost see the killer because they go to get the painting, blah blah blah, but they don't do that. I do gotta say I got a nice chuckle out of them finding the painting and then being like, oh dang, that's full on nudity, isn't this? Oh dang, it's like, that's my dad.
That's my dad.
Like, is that
I
shadow,
actually
or
thought...
is that a small bit of his balls?
Yeah, I thought it would come back as like, they kind of left that open about like his dad in a way.
Yeah.
Where they didn't explain too much about it, and like they did explain something happened and all that, but they kind of left that out, and I think that we'll deal with that in season 3. More likely.
They basically like explained that he was going to the house because he loved her, but she had an abusive husband, and then that night that he got thrown in jail, I think he killed that man. Like, yeah. I think he killed the husband.
I think he
or beat the crap out of her, out of him, and she disappeared, and so he got blamed for the murder of her. That's why I just kind of think the truth is about the father, or we're going to find like he killed the husband and the wife disappeared, and then that just made him look worse. But it was all part of their plan to keep her safe. This is like, I'll take the fall if it means do this.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
You know what I will say though, I was kind of sad when I started realizing it was Poppy who was the killer. I think it's her name's Poppy, right?
Yeah, her name's Poppy, but her original name is Becky.
Yeah. I was kind of sad whenever I started realizing it was Poppy, because I liked her so much more than the podcaster, Tina Fey. But she also played the role very, very well. Like, especially at the end where she like kind of snaps on them and does basically what Jan did in the first season, except like you instantly know that she's the killer. The way she's like, she got lucky with this, like, that doesn't prove anything. Like, supposed kill, like she says a lot of things that make her like instantly like red flags. Like, hold up, how do you know this?
Yeah, only the killer would know that. Yeah, like she says something about all the artists. The girl. No, why did we? Well, no, she said, how would you have known the? Why would you ask her to do a podcast about the artist of that painting? Like, why would you approach that? And then she talks about, well, you know, you're gonna listen to a girl, like in that lives in goes into your walls. And that's when Selena says, "Wait a minute." You know?
Because the thing that clued them on was the fact that they knew that the person who chimed them in on who saw her was the girl. But apparently, which this is one of the issues I had with it, is because we don't hear the podcast being made, but we're being like told like it's getting released as they go along. They like excluded Lucy out of the podcast, right? They include that they got a source that showed them X, Y, and Z, but they don't mention it's a girl or that it's Lucy apparently. And that was what was there, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, I did like that Oliver basically played Ultimate Werewolf in the 70s his whole life. Yeah. And I love you more that it's like it's the son of Sam is the killer, right? Yeah. And she's like, we had this, but it's called Billy the Butcher. He's like, no, we're in the 17s in New York. I laugh because like that's always what happens whenever you play those games. It's just like, oh, we're playing werewolves. Like, no, we're playing town. It's different. We're playing Mafia. It's different. Like, okay, we're playing Among Us. It's different. Like,
who did it?
I will say, I was actually expecting the murder. So up till I started suspecting Poppy, I actually thought the murder was going to be a father or a mother. And it's because this whole season had a super strong overtone of a parental's instinct to protect the child. You have the Greek guy saying like he would do anything for his son. That's why he did everything in the first season. You have Oliver being like, I'm willing to hide or lie about my heritage in order to like stay connected with my son. You hear about Selena and how her father was doing all that stuff for him. You had the cop with her baby and how she was saying like she's this, and then Oliver even says it's like, you say that you won't do that, but you'll do anything for your kid. And I like there was just a super big overtone throughout the whole season of that mentality. And so what I thought was going to be revealed is that either like Alice, the Mabel's like girlfriend like person, was either going to be the daughter of the artist who originally thinking she got scammed out of it, she was getting revenge in some way for that, or like you were going to find out that like it was the was his like Kimber who was doing it, so she would become the new person, so that way she could have a good life for her child. Like I thought it was going to be something where it's like a parent was doing it to protect or to like advance their child in some way. Like I thought at some point we were going to find like Kimber's dad or mom, and they're going to become super suspect because it's like they would do anything for their daughter. Yeah, I don't know. I also the fact that the one fan was also like said, he mentioned in the one thing, he's like, my daughter hasn't spoken to me in a long time, right? Like maybe she won't do it. Yeah, it's like maybe he was trying to do it in order to like further that, to like show his daughter that like he was a functional person by murdering someone. I don't
being famous.
I just really noticed that in the season that there was a lot of like parents doing anything for their child, and that's why I thought it was going to be about the murder, like it was going to tie into the murder. Nope. I guess you could chalk that up to a red herring. I either they chopped that up to they made that for a red herring, or they were originally going to make that a thing but decided to change the story course differently. I don't know which one is which, but I did notice that, and I would love if I could find any type of like director's notes or anything where they talked about it a little bit, because that felt too heavy-handed to me to not just be like it's in there, right? Because even with sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you. With Charles and Lucy, right? Lucy considers him her father.
Yeah.
And that's another character. Go on, Austin. Sorry.
Well, and the thing is like maybe it's actually something that will be brought up in the future seasons, I think, because the thing is like I had my suspicion of actually Oliver's son actually being the Demis, the Demis, whatever he's called, the guy that was the was the Nathan Lane from last season, like the villain, and his son Theo, the one.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe actually they would make a funny thing where it's actually his son is actually his and Oliver's son is
like they're
Theo.
swapped.
Yeah, because that would make more sense. But the thing is like this season they try to make Theo more of like a good character.
They try to make him sympathetic.
And it was good. I liked Theo. I liked Theo's character in that whole episode. It was really well done, especially with the signs with Selena and stuff.
I like that they got rid of the subtitles for him when he does that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one issue I had with that episode last season was I'm like they're making it artistic, but they're adding the subtitles, which completely voids the point of trying to make it artistic by having no sound, like no like language. In that episode, they started doing the sign language, and she's like, "I don't know what you're saying," and I'm like, "Yes, we're from her perspective in this episode," and it made it even more funnier, and also kind of a plot hole that he gives her the card that says, "I only really pick up like 1/3 of what people say lip reading." I was like, "You were doing a heck of a good job last season. Like you were lip reading people from across the building with binoculars while they're in like obscure." I'm like, you were reading all their lips last season that way. You cannot tell me you only pick up like 1/3 of what people said, and you were able to figure out who the murderer. It didn't make much sense, but
yeah,
like I liked Theo's change. I also liked the fact that both Theo and Mabel has disassociative what was that called? Disassociative amnesia, which is Mabel has it a lot, where it's like when trauma or issues affect you too much, you disassociate so much from it that you can't recall what goes on because you're protecting yourself from the trauma. And she's like, it started whenever I was little, when my dad had cancer and I couldn't face the idea of losing him, so I just don't remember it. And then it's like every single time something bad happens, she's always like, I don't know, I don't remember, it's a haze. And that was an annoying thing to me last season. And then this season they're like, it's a stray on like trauma response that she's been dealing with her whole life. And I was like, that's a solid character introduction for like, not introduction, but like things she has to overcome and like start facing and work through. And the fact that Theo also, to a degree, he has it because he's like, I rethink that night all the time, and I'm not sure if she slipped or if I pushed. And I'm like, yeah, that would haunt you, knowing that did I kill her, or did like we were up on a roof at that night, like was it really me? That would traumatize people. So I like Theo in this season. They did a good series of redemption for him, I felt. Not 100%, because he's still grave robbed people.
Any grave robbed.
Possibly murdered.
So possibly. We'll see. They haven't been tried. But yeah,
that's why he has the
possible.
Allegedly.
He threw her off the
Allegedly.
But yeah, I was I'm pretty excited. I liked season 2 a lot, and I'm really excited to see what they do with season 3.
Yeah.
Because how they end it with season 3, Paul Rudd was the special guest.
I was so upset, man. The second that Paul Rudd showed up, I was like, wait, is that Paul Rudd? And then he dies, and I was like, dang it. I thought it would be so fun to have Paul Rudd join for like
Yeah, wasn't
season,
it Ben?
You know?
I think they called him
Yeah,
Ben.
they called him Ben something.
They should have just had him as Paul Rudd, and like Paul Rudd dies, and then like the funniest thing would be Steve Martin's like Paul Rudd, like this whole Paul Rudd thing. I think it would have been great.
That actually happened in another show or movie, right? Mm-hmm. Where like they had like a special guest, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's blank, and then they just kill him. It's just like, oh my gosh, blank's dead. Like. I can't remember. I mean, they kind of did that with the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special with Kevin Bacon, where they just introduce a actual celebrity to the world, and it's just like, that's just Kevin Bacon. That's just Kevin Bacon. He's canon in the world, and he's canon in our society. Yeah. There's a theory / wish I have that whole scene, like that play, is actually a play. Yeah. And it's because like we know that Oliver, right, always has these like 3D level of ideas for the theater. Like he did Splash, which was like a pool and people died and like all that stuff. I'm like, imagine if he tried to take the Uncle Sam murder or whatever the Father of Sam murder system and install it into a theatrical system and have like Paul Rudd fake a death and then like basically have this whole artistic play on this fake thing, because I can't understand why the heck Steve Martin's character is dressed up also. Why would Steve Martin's character be there? The only thing that makes me think that this isn't a thing is how Mabel responds at the end, where she stands up and she's just like, are you freaking kidding me? That makes me be like, I don't know, but that would be like a big brain thing for them to like. I'm also saying this too because it's like me coping with this idea that maybe Paul Rudd can be in the next season. I like Paul Rudd, like straight up, dude. He's a man that no matter how older he gets, he looks the same, and it's like marvelous, right? And he's hilarious to me. I don't know if you've ever seen the Conan O'Brien interviews that he does, where he just keeps
me?
Yeah, he keeps showing Mac and me.
Of course.
Paul Rudd's hilarious. I would love to see him in this. It makes me so upset.
Oh yeah. No, Paul Rudd's great. That's why, I remember the first time I ever, knew Paul Rudd, which actually Paul Rudd was co-stars with the detective from the detective in this season.
Oh, the Bravos.
No. The detective that got the glitter bomb.
Yeah. The Krebs.
Yeah, because he actually was on an episode of Friends, because Paul Rudd is the person that marries Phoebe at the end of Friends.
Yes, that's my first time ever being introduced to Paul Rudd.
Yeah, and then Paul Rudd did 40-Year-Old Virgin, or no, was it? No, it was Knocked Up. He did Knocked Up.
I never watched
He did Knocked Up, and that was like his big old star. Like people were like, "Whoa, this Paul Rudd guy is really funny." And also, it was Seth Rogen's start into the whole fame thing. So that movie like really skyrocketed his career. And now Paul Rudd's in like a lot of things that are great.
Paul Rudd was like legitly he got Ant-Man. And then people were like, wait, we haven't been looking at this guy the same way. We thought he could only be a comedian. Now this guy has like good acting chops and he's hilarious.
And supposedly he was in a Super Nintendo's commercial. He was in the one where it was like a drive-in movie theater and he was playing on the Super Nintendo.
Oh.
It was like one of the first commercials for Super Nintendo's when he was like a teenager. He was like, but most actors start off in like commercials anyways. So Steve Carell did Chicken, and there's a whole bunch of them that do commercials first, and they're like, oh wait, like Morgan Freeman did a Listerine, I think it was, commercial.
Oh, of course.
So yeah.
The one thing I do want to say is they did a realistic showing of something in this season that I didn't know was a thing until I watched a YouTube show. And that was this thing that like you would think that if someone died or committed suicide or got murdered, the police would clean up that place, right, of the blood and everything. That's not. No, they force the family members or whoever lives there to clean it up. And in this episode, we see Mabel come home to this blood stain that she has to clean up. And I was like, yeah, that is messed up. And the thing that made me find out about that was a Meat Cannon video where he did a he reviewed he reviewed some Christmas or like movie or something like that, and the woman has like her dad get killed. Oh, it was the Grinch movie, the horror Grinch movie, where her dad gets killed with a candy cane, and she comes back and there's just blood and she has to clean it. He's like, don't the police normally do that? And it cuts to her cleaning, and it's like, apparently not. Apparently it is actually the family member's responsibility to clean up the murder scene. And I was like, that's so wild to me. And then I see in this, I'm like, yo, I just learned about this. Relevancy, man, it was crazy. Like whenever I saw that in this, I'm like, I know why this is now. Oh man. Man, it was a good season. Good show. I want to continue watching.
Solid.
Man, it also made me laugh whenever Mabel. So I remember the episode that started making me question if it was the podcaster girl or the other one. Whenever they did the like video of Mabel stabbing the guy, and she's like, "Did I stab a guy?" And my brain's like, and then she like got on call with the one side assistant, and she's like, you don't understand what she would do for a thing. And I'm like, wait, did she just like try to like frame her on thing? Because like you don't see her face when she runs off, and that could easily be someone else dressed up as Mabel and doing the act and whatnot. And I'm like, it all comes down to if like this person who gets stabbed ever surfaces, right? And so I'm like, it'll be one of two things: either one, person never did anything, like it was all staged, and that the viral clip is just that, a viral clip to like incriminate the person more, or it was like the killer and he can't come forward, or else it's just so obvious that he's the killer, right?
Yeah.
And that's where they basically go with. But that's when I started suspecting it was the podcasters. Is I'm like, it's one of those two. And I'm like, because it's either the big boss lady, but I don't see the big boss lady doing everything. And you know what made me think it was the assistant? Was whenever I started thinking, I'm like, she could frame her better than anyone, because she knows, she says earlier in the show, she knows all of her schedule inside and out. She knows exactly what she does and takes. I'm like, she knows everything enough that she could frame her easy. And that's what made me start thinking it was her. Man, I like it whenever detective shows do like small little hints like that. I think the whole like sneezing thing is like too heavy-handed that people would instantly start looking for a sneeze, and sure enough, like that's what they tried getting you with the new person. I thought initially that her Alice, like the potential love interest for Mabel, sneezed whenever she first got introduced to Mabel. I thought that was going to be a thing, and then it's like, oh, you had to be paying attention at the beginning when Alice was introduced versus not now. And I almost went back to like rewatch the episode to see if she like sneezed, or if she came out whenever like she gave Mabel the axe, and she's like, I'm not feeling great, like I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling under the weather, and she's like sneezing, or she has like tissues or whatnot. So then I'm like, that could be the tell, but I ended up not, because, you know, I was too engrossed with the episodes as they were. So I just kind of kept moving along. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. It'll show it. And that's a good show.
Yeah.
To do it, do all that good stuff. So Austin, what do you think's going to happen next season?
I really think that we're gonna see more, a little bit more backstory of Selena, because the thing is Mabel's character arc is still going on, because we only know about her dad. We don't know about her aunt that owns the apartment, that she says, well, you can't evict my aunt, and it's like, yes, but we can evict you. And like it's like, oh, okay, so her aunt owned the apartment. Also, Mabel's mom, we don't know anything about. We don't know anything about Lucy's mom because they bring up like the marriage thing.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a huge deep dive. But also too is I think that we're also going to see a lot more of Oliver, like how, you know, I don't know. I feel like, and also too is I also feel like the podcasters that are huge fans of Only Murders in the Building podcast is going to, one of them is, I think that this is going to get more traction out and there's going to be more of them. And I think maybe one of them is going to be a little psychotic crazy. And
well, they kind of joke about that in this season with What's His Face, which I did like that they did.
Yeah, they did.
The one thing I will say about those podcasters, right? I love that there's that whole scene of them talking to each other and they're talking like it, like, you know, like us talking about, right?
Time to move on.
But it's just like, I like that Mabel started dating that girl. That's very progressive of them. I laughed because whenever Mabel started dating her, my brain went, I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm okay with this. We'll see how this goes, right? I'm okay with that twist or that move. And then it's just like, well, you know, I also like the fact that they did this. And I'm like, they don't understand that these are, to them, these are just actual people's life. It's not like them like creating a podcast. This is like a real thing going on. These are people's lives. But I just laughed because like that was a legit thing that went to my head at one point, and I was like, oh, they knew exactly what their fans were thinking or would think. Good show. Good show.
Yeah, and I think maybe we're gonna see we're just gonna see probably I'm actually with you on that. I actually started thinking that maybe this is like a play thing where they just intervolve with everything about it and then make it like this huge play thing.
I would freaking die if it's the whole season is a play, like it's all a fake play or whatnot. I doubt that would be a thing because I don't know how they would be able to move that on for, because like the guy said, like in an hour and 30 minutes that's all we have to do. So unless the whole season takes place in that hour and 30 minutes, it doesn't make sense. But I would love it if the beginning of the season is that. One, because I want Paul Rudd to be around. Two, it would be a little too tragic to have Oliver's first time directing a play also end with another murder.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you know, like, come on. Okay. But who knows, right? You know, the one thing I think that will get revealed or they will talk more about,
what's that,
is Charles or Steve Martin's characters, how like he'll like stutter and whatnot and he'll get like blood down his face. I totally thought the end of this season was going to end with him having a stroke or something because of how he's responding to the one makeup person, where he's like trying to speak and she's just kind of like wording what he wants. I thought it was going to be like she hugs him and everything's like, Charles, yeah, like totally, and he starts bleeding and then he falls down and starts like seizuring out, and it was going to end with like them coming out, like zoning out on like him having that. Because one, I don't care who you are, if you have anxiety and blood starts coming out of your nose, get a CAT scan, go to a hospital, figure that out. That's not normal. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
The fact that this is season 2 and it's still happening, and I'm like, that seems like too much of a smoking gun for it not to be a thing. And I don't know if they're going to try ending the series with like Charles passing or Oliver's passing or something like that. It just makes sense, right? Like, I will be honest, there was one thing I thought they were going to do this season that they went away with. I thought they were going to make Charles a Sherlock-esque character. And by what that I mean by that is that Sherlock had one true love in his life, or one love in his life. That was Irene Adler, who was a villain who outsmarted him to a degree, and he basically like views her as this like smart intellectual being who is on par with him, but she's evil. And I thought that's what was going to be with Charles. Charles was going to be in love with Jen, and Jen was going to be this villain that got caught, and he would constantly go to her for like advice, and that was going to be like a Sherlockian thing that he does, to be like, I have this villain who I'm in love with, and I am as much afraid of her as I am in love with her. All right, well, that was just something that I thought about that I did say. Mm-hmm. Austin, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I'm excited to watch season 3.
Okay.
See how this kind of ends in a way. I don't know if they're doing like another season or not, so I don't know anything.
I already looked up. Season 4 got renewed apparently after season 3 finished airing. I don't know when season 3 finished. All they say is 2021. So I don't know if that's whenever it was first aired or the end of season 2 or 3. I assume that's the end of season 1, or that was whenever it aired. I just don't know if we're going to get season 4 this year or next year or the year after. That's what I meant to say. But anyways, I'm excited. I like it. It was a great show. Definitely keep watching it.
Oh yeah, totally.
Good old fun. Great characters, great everything. All right, Austin. I want to thank you so much, Austin, for joining me on this episode of Frozen Shows. Yeah. It was a good old time of only murders in this building. So thank you so much for joining me, Austin. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and we'll see you guys next time where we do only murders in this building season 3. So until then, thank you so much. Thank you so much for stopping by.